Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to get into this new announcement that not only comes from Brad Garlinghouse, but also the mention of NASDAQ, Ripple XRP, Stellar XLM, and even hedera HBAR. It's going to be a solid outline for you. I think you're going to appreciate this. Consider smashing that like if you haven't done so already. Jesse and I have some key things that we're going to get into. It won't be that long of a video, but let's just jump right into it. So the first thing we're going to get into is
Decent wallet. Just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
Actually, again, from Smoke. I love this guy. He's the best. And he has this for us. XRP XLM and HBAR mentioned, of course, on NASDAQ. Now, you're going to see how we connect this to the recent development from Brad Garlinghouse. He says, listen closely. You're watching mainstream media wake up in real time to the immense potential of ISO 222 and how it will bring the crypto markets. Even some of my closest friends, they came into like XRP so late, right? And some of you guys, same situation, and that's okay. But whatever the case be, it's understanding that you're part of the fourth industrial revolution before it takes off. And at the end of the day, when we see these comments about what was once dismissed as speculation and how it's now becoming acknowledged by the very institutions that shape global finance, I mean, man, we're hitting the bullseye. Price is simply an attention grabber. It's what gets people talking, right? Sometimes none of you guys will even click on the videos unless I mention some price. But whatever the case be, the real story lies beneath the surface. Infrastructure is, in fact, being built. Regulatory clarity is forming, and the financial system is quietly aligning with blockchain-based solutions that will reshape global payments, trade, value exchange. The clip below are the early warning signs before trillions of dollars in capital flow into a handful of crypto assets positioned at the center of this transformation. That's what's key. By the time the masses realize what's happening, the window of opportunity will have already closed. The question is, are you paying attention? Well, if you're connected here, you're paying attention. We do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and play this.
We had these two big clumps of performance, and in between we had to be super patient. It was really a Bitcoin year a lot, although after the election, the idea of smart contract platforms and other growth-oriented digital assets gained favor. They have much more to benefit from a new regulatory pavement. So Ethereum sprang back to life, a lot of other layer ones, a lot of DeFi protocols. So the CoinDesk 20 index ended up 88% on the year. The top performers of current constituents were on nobody's bingo card, right? Ripple and Stellar and HBAR. So a lot of the names that were where there was excitement in the beginning of the year sort of switched places. So it was a very strong year, and it really provided a launch pad for 2025.
Which is interesting because
all right, so think about that. I mean, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, some people point out, like, I need to own BTC. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I'm not bashing that and so on. But the way I look at it, it's all about the X's. No pun intended, referring to XRP and XLM and XDC and all that. I'm talking about literally X's as in your multipliers. If you think about all the people, FOMO money coming in to BTC at $110,000, to get a 2X, you have to have it reach $220,000. Think about how many low market cap gems there are out there where you could do 20X, 50X, or higher, right? That's what really counts. But getting further into this, I want to share this other key thing from Smoke because, man, he gets into the weeds of all of it. He says specifically this as well, and that is what you're about to see. And it is this whole thing about for the year, right? Like he points out. I'm going to play this key thing, and then we'll jump back into his other key findings. Let's go ahead and play this. Here we go.
Blockchain brought trustlessness to an industry that requires trust. And for institutional adoption, we sort of have to bring trust to trustlessness, right? And collateral management, custody, execution quality, knowing who your counterparty is, a lot of bilateral derivatives are going to explode in volume, right? It's not only just going to be centralized exchanges exchanging fiat for blockchain assets. It's going to be all kinds of trading. And a lot of that for institutional adoption is going to require familiar levels of trust. Right. So that has to be married back. Index investing, I think our biggest theme last year was that people didn't know what to do after Bitcoin. And I think many people still don't. And most people probably shouldn't, right? 5%ers who are going to spend 5% of their investment time thinking about crypto and maybe even allocating 1 or 2 or 3% shouldn't spend the time necessary to decide whether it's going to be Solana or Sui.
I think the infrastructure plays are interesting.
Right? But which one, right? Which one's going to reign supreme? Again, I don't think anybody had Ripple and Stellar on their bingo cards for best performer out of a CoinDesk 20 last year. So index investing with maintaining rebalancing into the top performers, the biggest names, the best liquidity, right? The easiest implementation cost, which is how a lot of our indices are built. We're about to launch a bunch of new indices next week, actually, that go much broader for the professional set, for the hedge fund that has a 200 token depth, for the IPO market maker who really needs to think about not Bitcoin and Ether, but the next 100 tokens. We think serving that market's going to be very important. So correlation to those tail assets is going to be important. For the everyday investor.
Okay. Nice to share that. The other part is, let's shrink this down. I do agree with this guy, his statement. Sorry about that. My mouse is freezing up. The narrative is shifting. Right. But think about it. That narrative at that time, they weren't expecting this to happen. Right. Because people follow the mainstream narrative instead of getting into the deep dives of what matters and why we're paying attention to it and so on. So again, I think that's very, very important. And again, the next part we're going to get into before we kick it over to Jesse is the new announcement. It's Brad Garlinghouse. So Ripple is happening. Institutional access to crypto is accelerating. For the launch of XRP futures and ETFs on CME, I pointed that out in one of my deep dives not that long ago, and NASDAQ just this week. It's clear the market is maturing and exposure to crypto is expanding. Brad Garlinghouse locks in for 60 seconds about the excitement, okay, especially with the ETFs. Listen to this, because at the end of the day, guess what? It's nice to see from the head honcho his perspective of how it all came together. Actually, it's a little over 60 seconds, but whatever the case be, I think you're going to like it. Smash the like if you haven't done so already. We do appreciate you. Here we go.
I'm definitely hurt, but also excited that I was overlooked for years before being on here, but now here I am. Hi, I'm Brad Garlinghouse. This is Crypto in 1 minute. 1 minute on why are people excited about crypto ETFs. I think there's two main factors going on here. One is, for the longest time, institutional investors primarily trading on Wall Street, really haven't been able to access crypto directly. Their options were to either self-custody, onboard with an exchange, and some people don't like centralized exchanges for a whole host of reasons. So this was really the first time you had institutions be able to go on Wall Street and trade directly in crypto. This is an unlock for a couple reasons. For capital that couldn't come in, whether it's an endowment, whether it's a pension fund, even mutual funds that didn't or couldn't access crypto, now they can. The second thing is, it really is institutionalizing the entire industry of crypto. I think it should be no surprise that the Bitcoin ETF was the fastest ETF ever to get to $1 billion in assets. I think it passed 10 billion in assets faster than anyone as well. And today I think we'll eventually close in on the gold ETF, and that's in 1 minute.
All right. So the way I look at it is there's some deep connections here. We mentioned NASDAQ when it comes to XRP, Stellar XLM, HBAR. You see this new update from Brad Garlinghouse. Again, the NASDAQ and what he mentioned, his perspective, all the stars are aligning. It's just pounding home that much more of our key findings and why we present it to you guys. So if anything, I definitely want to hear your key takeaway of not only what Brad Garlinghouse mentioned, but some of the key findings from Smoke. Jesse.
Yeah, so basically the money that's going to flow in is absolutely insane. So the NASDAQ, for example, I believe they're owned by the International Continental Exchange, which is ICE. They pretty much own all the exchanges in the world. Years ago, it used to be like $76 trillion, I think they have under management or on the exchanges there. And ICE, I mean. I don't know what the amount is right now with all the inflation. It must be a ridiculous amount. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 140 trillion. I don't know, but it's a huge amount. And the money, because it's the first time in history that retail investors, the average person, can invest in an asset like this before the big money, right? Because as Brad Garlinghouse was explaining, like, let's say you're managing a hedge fund and you're managing $200 billion. Well, you can't just buy crypto, put it on a hardware wallet and stuff that in your desk and hold 200 billion in crypto for, 100,000 different investors. You're managing big money, and there's custody, there's rules, there's regulations. Like I said, you just can't put it on you don't feel it's safe at the office, or you're going to bring it home, put it in your desk at home. It just doesn't work that way, right? It just doesn't work that way. So they needed to wait for the regulations, they needed to wait for the custody solutions and all that stuff. And it's the first time in history that the retail investor gets to invest before the big money. And that's crazy. That's just a blessing of God. And the other thing too is the retail investor, the average person, never would have known about this if it wasn't for the internet. So you needed this situation, and you also needed the internet as well. Because without the internet, like I said, we never would have known. It's the first time that we have this happen. Plus, we have the internet to know about it so that we can inform ourselves and invest. But the issue, like you said, the issue is people are still watching mainstream media. People are not realizing the mainstream media has been controlled for over 90 years. For over 90 years, it's all controlled. Okay, it's just a fact. You call it conspiracy, call it what you want. It's a fact. Mainstream media has been controlled. Literally 95 to 99% maybe of the mainstream media is controlled by 6 corporations. What they do is they set the policy at the top, and then all the other corporations. So you have one big corporation that owns all the other corporations, right? They're all different names, media outlets like CTV, ATV, CBC, CBS. They're all different names, but they're all owned by the same corporation. Washington Post, New York Times. So the policies get sits on the top. Sorry, the policy on what they're allowed to say, how they're going to phrase everything, what they're talking about. Okay, they have sets the policy, and that trickles down to all the other outlets. The narrative trickles down to all the other outlets, like I said, and you hear one narrative. Okay, and so at first it was like, oh, Bitcoin, is it worth it? What is it? This magic internet money, so it's going to be worthless maybe. And then now they're like, oh well, Bitcoin, maybe it's good, oh, I think it's good, you can invest in it. But even then, like, I'm sorry, not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, okay, full disclosure, but even now that they're saying like Bitcoin is good, some of the channels saying like Bitcoin is good, there's potential, they're starting to push it because of course now they got their brokerages, everything's ready to go, right? They can collect their fees from everybody, so now they're going to start bringing that money and bringing the retail investor in even more, and the hedge funds and all that stuff, right? But even talking about Bitcoin is good right now. I mean, it's like 1,200 to 1,500 times more expensive than quant, which is the operating system for this new world. Think about that. The media, even when they're talking about Bitcoin more positive, but even then, they're talking about an asset that has. I'm sorry, if you believe in Bitcoin, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Bitcoin. It's way better than fiat. Okay, but the main use case is a store of value. That's it. I'm not saying it's not good, but I mean, it's 1,500 times more expensive than quant or XDC and these different tokens that are literally laying the foundation, the infrastructure for this fourth industrial revolution that we're going into. And still, mainstream media is talking about Bitcoin. I mean, come on, are you kidding? That's the problem, right? It's controlling the masses. And without being preachy, I'm a Christian, I'm not shy of that. What did God say? He says, my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. My people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. And it's a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of knowledge. It destroys people. And the main lack of knowledge is following the mainstream media. It's that one narrative. And mainstream media is working for the biggest corporations in the world, right? Central bankers and all that stuff. I'm not going to go into rant there because it's going to be a 4-hour video. But it's a big problem. It's a big problem. It keeps people deceived.
Always appreciate your take, and we're glad to share this with you guys. So you guys know the drill. Type this keyword if you listen to the entire outline, and that is NASDAQ X's HBAR. NASDAQ X's HBAR. So it was a term, phrase, not a word. And we really do appreciate it because it tells us that you guys are listening to the end of the outline, and we always appreciate you guys doing that because, for one, like, there's instances where we don't know, like, did this guy listen to the end? Did this person, you guys will ask questions. It gives us good feedback. Okay, so we really do appreciate that. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. As the saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We will see you on the next one.
See you guys.
Over and out.